Another video of police brutality has emerged from Tuticorin in Tamil Nadu. The city has been under siege for most of this week after residents protesting against the Sterlite plant in the city battled with policemen. Kamal Haasan, the Tamil megastar who now heads the Makkal Nidhi Mayam, travelled to the southern coastal city to meet people who were injured in violent protests against the expansion of a copper smelting plant. So thank you very much for joining us. The Chief Minister has finally broken his silence quite belatedly. He says security personnel were only reacting to being attacked. How would you respond?
It doesn't look like reacting. You're shooting with sniper rifles and you call it reacting?
So the protesters are being instigated. These are allegations that have been made. How would you respond to this allegation? Because this is something that's being said time and time again.
What kind of posters? I was there in that place. I'd like to be appraised of what kind of posters they're talking about. Because I was there. I was there 4 days before this, and the mindset was they were proud of the fact that they were doing it in a non-violent way. And we were all promoting it and saying that you're going the right path and you should win. And this is the 100th day. And why would they suddenly decide to become violent after having created a reputation for them for 99 days of being non-violent and passive resistance?
So in your opinion, did the police deliberately try to eliminate the leaders of these protests?
Well, let's look at it this way. The word pre-planned is something that never came to our mind till the CM used it in his interviews. The Honorable CM said that nothing is pre-planned. That was very alarming. Why should the word pre-planned at all come into his phrasing? I'm building on that word of his what a claim to innocence about the fact that they were standing on a van and shooting down at people showed that they were not aiming for legs or the sky. They were not aiming for the sky or for the legs. They were going for body hits, and sometimes, most of the times, it was head hits. From what I hear, I haven't seen the bodies in the mortuary, only photographs. And some have been, I hear that some have been double taps, the kind of double tap that an American army would do to a terrorist.
Mr. Haasan, a shocking video has emerged of a protester on the ground who had apparently been shot by the police, and apparently the police were telling him, look, stop pretending. Isn't this a reflection of just how brutal the police were? It's almost unimaginable.
Oh, well, they must have meant stop being, because there is another footage where we hear a policeman tell another one, a peer telling the other that you must make the bullet count. We must at least have a life down from that position. That's there, unless it is staged, which I don't think so. Even film people like great directors cannot recreate a situation like that. But we have seen certain footages like this before, under the same regime, where auto rickshaws were torched by officers in uniform. Not officers, probably lower level police personnel, covering their face, masked, and they go and torch and blaming it on the agitators. And I think they have a modus operandi, a criminal modus operandi, which is repeating itself again.
So what did injured people you met and activists on the ground tell you? Because you're one of the few leaders who actually went there.
It sounded like a Sadat Hasan Manto short story on the violence of a partition. There was one guy who says, Saab, I'm not a protester. I had a load. I'm a coolie. I'm a day wager. And I had load on my head. And I lost my load and almost lost my life. this is not fair. What are you guys doing? He accused me. I was speechless, and I could only mumble an apology which wouldn't have sounded convincing for that man there. And there were mothers crying, and they said he's a student. And there's a man who comes out of ATM, there's no crowd there, but he was still shot at. That's what I heard. And I want peace to prevail in Tuticorin. So any more talking of these kind of violences is only going to get people angry. So we'll calm down, and yes, we have made a mistake. When I say we, I'm talking about the police and the government. I'm willing to become part of that and say that yes, we have done, because we put the government there. And the policeman is nothing but the tool of the government. He is another man, off duty, and if he's not been a policeman 2 years before joining duty, if he had been in the situation, he would have been in the Sterlite protest. That's the kind of spirit that is there in Tirunelveli. People unconnected want that poison spewing dinosaur out of their lives. That's the Sterlite factory. That's all they've been talking about.
Right. So reports are now emerging on how environmental norms specific to hearing the voices of local people in the area were completely bypassed. Isn't this the root of the issue as far as environmental norms being flouted?
Absolutely. Just because you're not wearing an eye patch and riding a horse, and you're not wearing a mask, it doesn't make you less criminal. You're wearing a suit and a coat and sitting in high offices doesn't make me any less criminal than a man who just relieves you of your purse, your money, or your life. That's what has happened. And the Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board has been in deep slumber. I mean, ordered by someone higher up or above to be so. And this is what comes to me from all that proof of misdemeanor, breaking of law, flouting of rules, and the green, supposedly, the supposed green belt, which was supposed to be there. I went and saw it. It's a sham. There's nothing that was done to save the people. Everything, they flouted the laws, and they polluted the place, and people have died. And I met the children, I've carried them in my hand, and I've met families. We even helped. There was a message from the father who was dying directly to people, and he didn't name me, but it felt like he was calling out my name. That should have been the case. That kind of emotional response should have come from the government.
Right, Kamal Haasan, it's an honor speaking to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us today. Kamal Haasan talking about what he believes is the reality of the situation in Tuticorin. We are completely out of time. Thanks very much for being with us. Goodbye.